right, well, welcome everybody to today's session, Primetime Family Reading, Chautauqua, and More. A recorded version of this webinar will be available at a later date after the captions are edited, so please keep an eye out for updates on the KYAC listserv. Once again, if you would like to speak to the moderators or ask a question, at the very bottom of your screen, there is a purple tab that has two arrows. If you click on that, you will see a chat bubble option. Go ahead and click on the chat bubble and then you'll be able to speak with us. Derek has agreed to take questions as they come, or you can ask them at the very end. So today's presenter is Derek Bevan. He is from Kentucky Humanities, and I'm going to let him introduce a little bit about himself, and then he can go ahead and start his presentation. Derek?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for turning it over, and thanks to y'all for joining me. I'll actually jump over to the next slide to kind of introduce myself a little bit. So I'm Derek Bevan. I'm the programs officer for Primetime Family Reading and Museum on Main Street here at Kentucky Humanities here in Lexington, Kentucky. Fun fact about me, I just got married in August, and so you can see there on the screen a picture of me and my wife, who is much smarter and much cooler than me. And then you can see on the other side here our dog Tucker. This photo was taken in Wisconsin. We were living in northern Wisconsin. It was very, very cold, and this was when the lake finally started to thaw out. So you can see his expression of joy. So I've always liked that picture. But it's nice to meet everyone, and again, thanks for joining me. So today we're going to talk primarily about Primetime Family Reading, which is a program. Thank you for the comment on my marriage. So again, Primetime Family Reading brought to Kentucky by Kentucky Humanities, as well as funding from KDLA. They're a big funder of this program. We've had a long relationship with them. We really appreciate it. Other funds come from grants across the state. So in Louisville, we have the Wood and Marie Hanna Foundation. In Eastern Kentucky, we have the Steele Reese Foundation. West end of Louisville, Frank Harshaw Family Foundation. PNC Foundation here in Lexington, as well as counties throughout the state. And then we also get a big portion of our funds from the National Endowment for the Humanities. So again, funds for this program, all grant driven, and we really appreciate our funders. So Primetime Family Reading, just kind of the overview. It's a humanities-based reading and discussion, storytelling, family literacy program that's held at libraries, schools, community centers all across the Commonwealth. So we've done them as far east as down in Pikeville. We've done them in Barberville, just kind of all over that part of the state. We do them out west as well. Last year we had one in Crittenden County. We've done it in Caldwell County, Logan County for a number of years. So again, all across the state. We really emphasize that humanities-based reading and discussion, which we'll get into in just a minute. The key element is that the families are involved too. This is not just a program for children. The families are involved as well. We try to bring in the significant adults in their life to kind of bring them into those discussions. So the mission is to create the precondition for future learning among economically and educationally vulnerable families. So again, the West End, we talked about that with the Frank Harshaw Foundation. In Louisville, we'd like to do programs there. Eastern Kentucky, every county pretty much has an area of need, and so we really try to target those. We try to target the families that aren't coming to the libraries. We try to target the children that may have the lower test scores and the historically underserved or never served populations that can't always get their hands on these humanities-centered family literacy programs. So the goals are to deliver quality humanities education experiences, again, really targeting those communities across the state that don't have access to those experiences. We want to increase library use. So we're looking for those families that you're not seeing at the library as often as you would like to. We want to increase family bonding and reading time. Again, bringing those significant adults to the table is incredibly important. We really stress that. Positively affect attitude and behavior regarding reading. We want to really encourage parents and kids to keep reading after this program is over. We do have surveys that we use to kind of follow up to mark that. Again, we want them coming back to the library. We want them to continue reading. We want them to come back to these programs again. And of course, we want to improve academic achievement. So there are some core elements of the Primetime program. You can see them there on the screen. The participant-centered instruction and learning is very vital. This is about those individual participants, getting them to the table and having those discussions. The Socratic method and open-ended questioning. So not just letting people answer, but asking them why and allowing them to kind of elaborate on their thoughts and giving them the time to do that they may not get in the classroom or that they may not get at home. Letting them really explore the ideas that we're discussing during this program. The development of higher order thinking skills. Making those personal connections, again, is very important, especially with the libraries. We see those as kind of the centers of the community. And so being able to make those connections and bring those people back in for other programs in the future is an important part of prime time. And then, of course, the collective learning strategies, promoting respectful, diverse audiences. The books that we have are very diverse, and so we want our audience to be very diverse, and we want everybody to be respectful of everyone's opinions and perspectives while we're at the table. So again, we try to combine these elements for the program so that everyone can enjoy the experience. So the way that primetime works is that a trained team of a scholar and a storyteller guide the participants through the books. They try to go beyond those shallow considerations of who, what, when, and where, and they promote more critical thinking skills, reasoning, and questioning skills. So what do we mean by that? We're not just asking, well, what happened in this book, or who was the main character? We're asking more about why did things happen, or what are the motivations behind the main character's actions? So we're diving a little bit deeper than just reading comprehension. And it demonstrates how literature can enrich one's life, model strategies for continued family bonding through literature, and provide families critical information on library resources for continued reading once the program ends. So again, we're trying to go beyond the program here. Once this all wraps up after the end of the 6 weeks, we want to see those families at the libraries again. And we want them reading in the home. We want them engaged in that way too. So I won't go super in depth on the methodology. We touched on it on some of the previous slides, but you can read the things there. Again, that participant-centered instruction is very, very important, focusing on people's answers and allowing them to kind of flesh out their ideas. The Socratic method and that continuous open-ended questioning of asking why, giving people time to think out their ideas and bring them back to the table, developing those higher order thinking skills, making those personal connections, and again, just being respectful and of diverse audiences. So again, just to reiterate, we're really trying to go beyond the basic recall of a story's plot. We're promoting critical thinking, reasoning, and questioning skills. Primetime, really, the goal is to demonstrate how literature can enrich one's life. So we're thinking beyond the book. We're thinking about the books that impacted you as a kid and the things and the stories that you remember, and trying to instill those at an early age. We're trying to model strategies for continued family bonding through literature, again, bringing them back to other library programs, whether it's summer reading or something else, encouraging them to read at home and using these books as kind of a family bonding strategy. That'll continue to bring people back for library resources and keep those connections flowing as the program comes to an end. So again, we're kind of playing the long game here. So target families, like we said, low income or low beginning literacy. You can really reach out to the schools for your connections there, since they have access to a lot of that information to get those families in the door. The reluctant readers, the kids that aren't wanting to read or have low test scores, they're not reading in the home. English language learners is a good one. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into it. But translators are available. And so again, English language learners is really important. And then again, infrequent or non-library users, all people that we want to see come to primetime, that the program is built for them. And again, it all centers around those humanities-based discussions. Each discussion is based on a certain theme for the evening. Something like bravery or courage or what it means to be human or making difficult choices. Fairness, greed, individuality, courage, cleverness, trickery, dreams, all of those things and more are discussed in the primetime program. Again, those questions are usually led by the scholar, and they give it about 30-45 minutes to kind of dig down and discuss those questions. So the team members, right? How does primetime work? Who do you need on your team? The team members are the site coordinator. So they're going to be responsible for the site, running the logistics, taking the attendance, those kinds of things. The storyteller obviously reads the books. We need someone energetic. We need someone who's willing to engage and use different voices and really kind of demonstrate how to actively read a book. The scholar or the discussion leader, they ask those humanities-based questions and they lead us through those discussions. Childcare / preschool coordinator. So say a family brings children that are not eligible for the primetime program. They're too young. So primetime is for 6 to 10-year-olds. So if we have families that bring 4 or 5-year-olds, that's where the childcare or the preschool coordinator come in. They will take the younger children or even the older children into a different room and they'll engage with them in a different way. Translator, like I said, if we have families whose primary language is not English, we can help with a translator. And then any kind of volunteers you can get through the door is always helpful as well. So the site coordinator, again, they manage the logistics of the program. They're going to be recruiting the families. They're going to be taking attendance. They're going to be doing the pre and post surveys. They're going to be doing the phone calls to remind the families to come each week. They're going to be setting the dates for the program. So again, they really lay the foundation for the program. They're kind of the host of it, and they make everything flow smoothly. They will also secure the food and the door prizes. So primetime always starts with a meal. That's a big thing that gets families in the door. They don't have to worry about dinner that night. Some of the underserved families as well, that's a big pull for them. So again, the site coordinator will be responsible for making those community connections to bring the meal to the primetime program. Again, they'll manage the entry and exit surveys that we, Kentucky Humanities, need to collect our data to keep this program going. And the number one thing is that they need to be a good listener. They need to be understanding of what the families need. They need to be hearing them out each week so that they can make adjustments and the program can continue successfully. Next up, we have the scholar. So they require an advanced degree in the humanities. That's a PhD or a master's. They will lead the discussion. So after the storyteller has read the book, it's turned over to the scholar, and they will ask those questions that we were talking about. They will use the Socratic method and those kind of open-ended questions, asking why, letting parents and children kind of talk it out and discuss. It's usually somebody that loves books and reading. That's definitely something that's helpful. Somebody that's comfortable with audiences is also helpful. We do a training for every single one of these roles, and so we can work with you on that. But again, someone comfortable in front of an audience is always good. And someone who is comfortable asking questions and asking why, and really kind of pushing for those follow-up answers is something that's very helpful. Again, above all, they need to be a good listener. They need to be receptive of everything that's thrown at them and be able to kind of repackage that as a why question so that people can continue to explore these themes in depth. So the storyteller, they will read the book. You can see the photo there. They're responsible for kind of the energy of the program. They usually need a good knowledge of children's literature. They will help lead the discussion as well with the storyteller. They'll kind of bounce ideas off of each other. They also need to be comfortable with audiences, kind of in a more performative manner. And they're going to demonstrate those really good storytelling techniques for the parents. So we want the parents to see how to engage with these books and how to read these books. And they need to be comfortable sharing with the audience and, of course, a good listener.
Derek, we did have a question. Rachel asked, do the meals that are served at the beginning of prime time, do they cover the children that are not eligible for prime time that may be brought by the caregiver, the preschoolers, the 5 and unders, or is it just for the older kids that are participating in prime time?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and it's for everyone. So the meal is for everyone. The parents, the children that they bring, everyone sits down and we eat together, including the scholar and the storyteller and the site coordinator. That kind of facilitates that bonding. And then once the meal is complete, the 6 to 10-year-olds and their parents or significant adults in their life will head off to do prime time, while the child care and the children that aren't quite old enough will go elsewhere, and they'll usually read some stories or do some kind of academic activity. So great question, but the meal is for everyone.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and while I'm on it, just one more comment about the meal. We tend to encourage the meals to be healthy. So you can coordinate with your local extension offices, maybe a church, some restaurants to bring in those healthy meals and kind of encourage parents to see if they can get those healthy meals in the home too. So great question, thank you. So preschool coordinator or the child care, again, they attend to those that are not quite old enough to join in on the primetime program. They present pre-reading activities, so if we have some youngers that are still maybe working on their ABCs, they can work on that. They provide that good mental stimulation to keep them entertained while prime time's going on in the other room. They can serve refreshments, and they also assist in room and setup and cleaning. So school liaison or the translator, these are kind of two separate roles, but they also help with recruitment of families. They'll help the site coordinator with that. We had someone in, I think it was Fleming County, who was just exceptional in this role. She spoke Spanish, and so she was actually able to go into the homes of some of the Spanish-speaking families in the community and recruit them. And then she served as the translator. So you're kind of thinking of someone like that who knows the families that need access to prime time in the community. They can go into those homes and bring them to prime time. They'll help with the weekly registration of the participants, and they can assist with the preschoolers if they're needed there as well, especially if there's a language barrier. So as I mentioned, translators are available for prime time. We can also get you translated materials. In Kentucky, we've predominantly seen Spanish, but I know that they have done it in other languages. They did a Japanese program years ago in Georgetown with the Toyota plant. So again, we can get you materials that have been translated. We can get you translators, and we can incorporate both English and Spanish language titles, as well as promotional materials, forms, and templates that are available in Spanish to help out with that. We've seen the translation done a couple of different ways. One, they had an earpiece, and they gave out another earpiece to all the families that spoke Spanish in this particular setting, and they read along with the scholar and the storyteller so that everyone kind of got a little bit of English and a little bit of Spanish, and it was translated directly through the earpiece. So just one way of doing it. So promotional materials for primetime are available for download. If you decide to do the program, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to hear from you, and we can get you access to all these promotional materials, especially the site coordinators. As you're recruiting families, this stuff is essential. You can send out flyers, you can have posters in the library, you have little sign-up cards, just different things, little posters. Like I said, these are available in English and in Spanish, so we can help you get what you need. And families tend to like these. It gives them something to put up on the fridge to kind of remind them. There's also certificates of appreciation for completing the program that you can print out, and any kind of customized book bags. So as I mentioned, every program starts out with a meal. We like that to try to be healthy, and then snacks can also be used for the door prize as well. Again, we try to keep those somewhat healthy. So each night wraps up with a drawing. Every family will put their name in, and then it's drawn out of a hat for the door prize. You can do one door prize if you want, or you can just do a door prize for every family, depending on how many families you have. But it's up to the site coordinator to obtain the food and those prize donations from the community. Again, we've had a lot of success with people going to churches for those things, or finding a local store or your extension office. So we've done this program for over 20 years in Kentucky. We've collected a lot of data, and we've collected a lot of positive feedback. Families tend to really like this program, and a lot of them at the end of the 6 weeks, they really want to come back for more. So you can see some of the quotes there. You know, I didn't mention this at the start. It is a 6-week program. You meet once a week for about an hour, 2 hours, and you'll read through these books. You'll read 2 books a night by the storyteller, and the scholar will have those discussions following the books. You'll hand out the next 2 books for the next week. So that's just kind of how it works. The families get to keep the books at the end, which is a huge boost. They leave this program with 2 books a night, with a total of about 11 or 12 books at the end of the 6 weeks. So I think we've got some data here. Like I said, we've done this for about 20 years. We've done 345 programs in 88 counties since 2002. We've served almost 5,000 families, 16,000 participants. In 2023, we had 16 sites that hosted primetime, and in 2024, we had 17. So we like to keep it around that number. And again, they're all across the state, so it doesn't matter to us where you are. Just apply, and we'll get you what you need. So in order to apply, you can go to our website there, kyhumanities.org. You're going to want to go to the Programs tab at the top and go down to Primetime, and it will have all the information that you need, as well as the application. Those applications go straight to me. So if you are interested, please reach out to me. We have awarded programs for 2025, but we do have a couple spots left. So again, please just reach out to me, fill out that application. I'm happy to talk with anyone on the phone and kind of walk them through the process or answer any specific questions that you may have. There's also a really cool video there that I would recommend watching because it kind of walks you through the program as well. And that was filmed here in Lexington just a year or two ago. So it shows some of the Primetime program in action and gives you a little bit more statistics. So Kentucky Humanities, we do more than just Primetime. As I mentioned earlier, we do Museum on Main Street, which is one of my programs. We have Kentucky Chautauqua, we have Speakers Bureau, and these things are available to libraries and schools, community centers across the state as well. Our tagline is Telling Kentucky's Story, and so a lot of these programs really kind of dive into that. Kentucky Chautauqua is pretty well known across the state. I'm sure some of y'all have had it at your library before, but it's basically historical reenactors that will come in and give a presentation as this individual. We have 24 characters from Kentucky history. We recently added a young Abraham Lincoln, so it's actually before the presidency, which is pretty interesting. He's giving, in this particular presentation, he's giving a eulogy on the night of Henry Clay's death. So it's him before the presidency when he's about to kind of launch his political career. And then we also added Madam Mintel, who was an educator here in Lexington for young women. And she was actually Mary Todd Lincoln's educator. So there's kind of a connection there. It is a $200 booking fee. And I can get you more information if anyone has any questions about that. We can get you more information there. We also have Speakers Bureau. So we actually have over 60 speakers now. We added a couple more. And we have 122 different topics all over Kentucky. We've got Kentucky history. We've got Kentucky culture. Anything that you need, you name it, and we've got it. So similar to Kentucky Chautauqua, you'll book through us. There's a certain fee, and then the speaker will come to your site and give the presentation. We do Kentucky Reads, which is kind of our version of a statewide book club. So in 24, our selection was Scissors, Paper, Rock by novelist Fenton Johnson, who's from the Bardstown, Nelson County area. It is a $50 booking fee, but we will send you 15 copies of the book as well as a discussion guide written by a scholar. So that way y'all don't have to do any of the work. You just read the books. We also have scholars available to lead the discussion, or you can select your own. And they will come, and again, they will just kind of lead the discussion on the book, and you get to keep the books at the end, which is always nice. So we're in the process of selecting our title for 2025. We haven't announced it yet, but we will announce it in January, and bookings will be open and available. So just something to keep in mind. And then we also have our Kentucky Humanities magazine. We recently put out the fall edition for 2024. You can see the cover there. It goes out to a lot of libraries, so some of y'all may have seen this one as well. Stories from all across the Commonwealth, poems as well, book reviews, program updates, all kinds of things in there. You can submit to the magazine if you have something interesting that you want to write about. You can do that on our website. And we put out 2 issues a year. We put out one in the spring, and we put out one in the fall. And as I said, Museum on Main Street is another one of my programs sponsored by Kentucky Humanities as well as the Smithsonian. So Museum on Main Street is a very fascinating program. Basically, it takes large-scale Smithsonian exhibits and it shrinks them down so that they can travel to different states. I went to Washington, D.C. in July to learn about our current exhibit, and the folks at the Smithsonian said people come to Washington, D.C. twice in their life. They come once on a high school trip, and then they come again to bring their kids back when they're 30 or 40. And I had never been to DC. We didn't do a high school trip when I was in high school. And so this was my first time going to DC and the Smithsonian. And so I think it's very, very important to bring the Smithsonian to states like Kentucky, where we don't always have access to just go over to DC and check it out. So this particular exhibit is called Americans, and it really focuses on American Indian cultural identity across the United States. It's an interesting take on history. So you've probably seen a lot of the mascots and the logos, whether it's the American Spirit cigarette packaging, Red Man chewing tobacco. It focuses on a lot of those images and the history of how they came to be, and kind of where they're going. It focuses on myths and realities in American Indian history and culture, the myths versus realities of Pocahontas, for example, the myths versus realities of Thanksgiving. And then it explores certain cultural touchstones of American Indian history. The Battle of Little Bighorn is one, for example, and how that kind of shaped the American military consciousness, and how they started to use American Indians as kind of a representation. You think about things like the Tomahawk missile. So it's a very insightful exhibit. It's a very educational exhibit, and it'll be here in 2025 through 2026, traveling across the state. We haven't announced the sites yet, but some of them are public libraries, so be sure to check that out and come for a visit. So that is the last of my slides. I know we're a little bit early, but I can take questions. I'm sure there's some on the prime time, if anybody has any.
Derek, while we're waiting for questions from the audience, could you tell us what problems or hurdles you see most often when libraries try and start a primetime program at their library? Like, what are some things that libraries should really look out for on the horizon when they want to start a program?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest one, and it is kind of daunting, is setting everything up. Especially as a site coordinator, you inherit a lot of responsibilities. So I think one is making the right connections to recruit the families. Reach out to your local schools, reach out to your local housing authorities, reach out to your local churches, and really try to find these families that are going to benefit most from the program. So that's number one, recruitment, knowing where to look and knowing how to get them in the door. Again, the meal is a big seller, and the door prizes can be a big seller as well as those free books. So if you really harp on those three things, hey, you're getting a free meal, you're going to walk away with 12 books and some door prizes, that can get families excited about coming in the door. The second thing that we see is getting those meals. Again, it can be very difficult. The site coordinator is responsible for bringing those in. Definitely reach out to your local churches. We've had church groups come in to libraries that had kitchens and cook in the kitchens, or cook in their own kitchens at the church and bring those in as a donation. We've had restaurants as well do that, or work with the site coordinators for a reduced rate, especially catering organizations. And again, the county extension services are really great, because that's something that they're trying to encourage in the county, is healthy eating. And so they can bring in certain recipes and get those prepared, leave the recipes with the families as well. So again, recruitment I've seen as kind of a hurdle. Getting those meals is kind of a hurdle. Once the program's going and you're kind of in the rhythm of it, especially by the third or the fourth week, families know when to come, you know when to come, the meals know when to come, and everything's kind of fitting together at that point. So usually it's just those initial setup pieces, and we're always here to help. You can always call Kentucky Humanities, shoot me an email, and I will walk you through anything that you need. So great question. Thank you. And I'll go back to my contact information in case anybody needs that. Like I said, we do have a couple spots open, so if anyone's interested, just shoot me an email or give me a call, and we can walk you through it.
And the books are provided by correct?
Yes, so the books are provided. That's where a lot of the grant funds go. KDLA and the other funds pay for those books, and so we will receive the books in our office. We will package them up and we will send them out. And it all comes with discussion guides, and it all comes with a schedule. So you will have a schedule of these 12 books that you're going to read over the course of 6 weeks. Again, it's 2 a night. You'll have the theme and you'll have the discussion questions as well. So the content is built in for you. And again, you'll receive these books and you'll get to keep them and hand them out to the families at the end.
Awesome. And if a library is having trouble finding a portion of the team, like the translator specifically, you said that Kentucky Humanities would be able to help them out with that?
Yes, of course. We have lists of translators that we've used in the past. We even have a list of scholars and storytellers that have been trained by us. So if you're somewhere and you're having trouble finding a scholar in your area, which can happen in the rural communities, give us a call and I guarantee you we can find one for you. Like I said, we've been doing this program for over 20 years, and so we've compiled a lot of people that we have trained that we're happy to utilize. So yes, just give us a call if anything comes up. We're here to help. And we always come out for a visit too, usually on the third or the fourth night, just to check in with the program and address any concerns you may have.
I was going to ask you too, Derek, is there a prime time season? Like, is everybody kind of have a similar start and end period of the weeks, or is it kind of dependent on what's best for the individual library?
Yeah, great question. So we usually try to do them in the spring. That just seems to be when there's the most excitement. People are coming out of winter, they're looking to get out of the house and have something to do. There's kind of a sweet spot before you start to hit spring sports. We have not seen programs be incredibly successful during the summer. People are on vacation and just doing other things. And we've done a couple in the fall as well, but with school starting back, that's kind of what parents are mostly focused on. So we traditionally require that all programs are completed no later than August 31st, just because, again, that seems to be the best time of the year. That also gives us, Kentucky Humanities, time to get data back, record it, and report back to our grantors so that we can get those reports in and start applying for grants for the next cycle. So
Awesome.
August 31st is the deadline.
That's great. So this is something that a library could do in the spring and then potentially have already fed into their audience for summer reading, which would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Great.
As far as your attendance numbers, Derek, is there a sweet spot as far as like we don't want to see less than a certain amount or more than a certain amount?
Yeah, we send 20 copies of each book. And so if you can distribute 20 copies, whether that's 20 separate families or whether that's, 4 or 5 families with multiple children, 20 is kind of the sweet spot, but we purchase more, so we can always send you more. I went to a prime time this year that had almost 60 people. Now, any more than 60 is pushing it just in terms of managing that many people, getting that many meals in. But honestly, the more people that you can get, again, up to about 60 or so, is great. Usually we're averaging about 15, 20, kind of in that range. And it really gives the scholar and storyteller a chance to engage with those families. And like we said, I'll ask a lot of those why questions and kind of dig a little bit deeper in those discussions.
That is fantastic. Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I know it can seem a little daunting to do these roles, but as I said, we will train you for everything. We'll train the scholar and the storyteller and the site coordinator. You'll have a checklist of everything you'll need to do, and you can always come to me with any questions that you may have.
Great. So if our folks here, you did a great presentation, you did a great job. If they're completely overwhelmed, what's the very first step you would say they should do to get this at their library?
Yeah, I completely understand. Like I said, at the start, it seems like a lot. Just give me a call and I can walk you through any questions that you have. Like I said, the biggest thing is getting your team together, getting them trained, and getting the families recruited, and then everything else will fall into place. So like I said, just give me a call. I can answer any specific questions or concerns that you may have. We've got lists of scholars and storytellers, people that have done the program before that we can put you in touch with, so that you can kind of lean on their experience and you don't have to go it completely blind.
Awesome. Well, we're going to keep the room open for just a little longer. So if you're participating and you have a question for Derek, you can either contact him at the slide there at derek.bevan@uky.edu. His phone number is also listed. You are welcome to stay in the room for the next session. Otherwise, we are going to take a break and just hang out. And Derek, thank you so much for being here today. This sounds like a wonderful program. I'm interested myself in seeing if our local library can get this started for families in our area. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. Otherwise, thank you so much, Derek.
Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all.